Shalom. Good day. My name is Dio, and I would like us to continue on some interesting topics that we have covered in the past. I know that I think my previous video, I know it's been long, my previous video was mostly on the importance of the name of God. We spoke about where and when not to use the name of God, and how important and imperative for us to understand this topic of taking the name of God seriously and not to take it in vain. We spoke about you cannot be saying the name of God while you are in the filthy place or toilet or in a place where we've got people around you who are naked. It was a very important and very interesting topic that we spoke about there. And I just want us to build on this topic, but today I want us to talk about what you call in Hebrew Brachot. And Brachot is it's a plural, and in English, Brachot is blessings. Blessings, quite interesting topic, but also important. Blessings is part of a bigger topic, very important topic. In Hebrew, we call it Hakarat Hatov, and in English will be translated as gratitude. The reason why I am saying it in Hebrew because there's something very interesting when we look at it from the Hebrew perspective. So this word Hakarat Hatov, the literal translation into English would be recognizing the good. Recognizing the good. And bear with me, let me just try to give you some examples or some explanation why I think looking at it from that perspective, it's quite interesting. In Hebrew, the teaching is that everywhere, any time of the day, there's always good that is surrounding you. And it then becomes your duty to consciously and deliberately recognizing the good that already exists. The good is not going to come. There's always good in everything. Even in the situation where we think this thing that is happening to me or around me seems to be evil or not good, you must always know that even in that situation, if you look carefully, you can recognize the good in some aspect of the things that seem not to be good that are happening. And that's why in Hebrew, and we'll get into it, the blessings. That's why in Hebrew, we bless for almost everything. Even in the situation where things seems to be going against good, seems not good, we also bless for that which seems not to be good. Because we are so limited in our understanding, in our perspective in life, that we have to recognize that we might be wrong in thinking that whatever that is happening is not good. And sometimes, as time goes on, as God opens our minds and we get to understand things that we didn't understand in the past, or we get to know more information that supports that particular situation, we get to understand that actually it was not all bad. There are elements of good in that. Let me make an example. Some years ago, I remember I was working for this company and they used to pay for me to go and write exams. They paid for me to write an exam, Solaris Unix, during those days. I prepared using even previous papers and all that, right? And I failed. And they paid for the second time. I prepared, I even, went through more and more previous papers and all that. Unfortunately, I failed again. And I was now preparing for the third time. The third time, my manager came to me and said, "Yo, this is the last time that we'll be paying for you." Number two, according to the policies of the exam, if you fail 3 times, I think you can't write for the next coming 6 months or a year. You will have to try again that exam after a year. So now I even went harder preparing for this exam. Before I could even write the exam, I had an interview at one big company. I went to the interview, and before I actually even go there, look at these instances. If you look at them, you will see that this is not good. We all agree. I mean, I've failed twice already, and this is my last time for me to attempt this exam. Anyway, I went to the interview. The interview went very well, but as part of the interview process, I was supposed to write a assessment, right? The interviewer, the manager sitting there, he gives me a question paper for me to go through the question paper. And guess what? That question paper was one of the previous question paper that I had used to practice for my exam so many times that I knew it in and out. And I really wanted to change the job because where I was working, I felt like I was not compensated enough. I looked at this question paper. I finished it very quickly. I was done, just like that, And the manager goes through it, marks, and see that I got 100%. He couldn't understand, like, how many senior people came here and all that and impress us through the interview, and then they get to a question paper that they fail. And here you are, you did very well on your interview and also on a side assessment, And to cut a long story short, by the time I joined the company, they gave me probably 60% increase from my previous company. But anyway, when I joined, I had people say, "Oh, I've heard so much about you, good things. I really wanted to meet you." I finally get to meet you, senior managers, directors. I couldn't understand, only to find out later that after that, everyone was talking about me, that this young boy did very well on the interview and also on the assessment. Do you see what I'm talking about? God was preparing me for a bigger thing, for me to keep on going back and back and back. By that, it looked like it's a bad thing. But now later you get to understand why certain things God allowed them to happen. And hence in Hebrew, in Judaism, we bless even for things that seem to be bad. Blessed are you, Adonai, God, King of the universe, the true judge. That's a blessing, but we'll get to the blessings. I really wanted to share that story because it's quite important to understand that even when we cannot really fathom and understand the situation that we find ourselves into, even in that state, we still need to bless God and try by all means to recognize the good that is around us. What lesson are we meant to learn in whatever that we are going through? In all those things, we stop and utter a blessing. Now that we understand this, as I said, a blessing is part of a bigger, more important topic called Hakarat, Hatov, for recognizing the good. As you have trained yourself and trained your mind to recognize the good in everything, you will see that Every step of the way, it is become your duty to bless God. From the moment when you wake up in the morning, you recognize the good. Sometimes there are certain things in life that happen so many times that we end up forgetting that they are actually miracles, that we are actually supposed to thank God for those things. We start taking them for granted. And the miracle of waking up in the morning, it seems not a miracle anymore. It seems like a guaranteed thing that's supposed to happen. But training your mind and understanding that it's actually a blessing from God for you to wake up in the morning, you then get to understand that it is your duty to intentionally recognizing that miracle and blessing God for it. Hence, in Judaism, we do have a blessing that is uttered early in the morning. The first thing that you do when you open your eyes, the first thing that you do is not to check your emails. The first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is not to check the news. The first thing when you open your eyes, you utter a blessing. We offer thanks to you, the living and eternal King, for mercifully restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness. We get to utter those words because we have recognized that it was not given, it was not obvious that you will wake up in the morning. And another one that we get to take it for granted, we think it's given, it's supposed to happen, it's when we go to the toilet. You go to the toilet or the restroom, you do whatever that you do, you come back, then you carry on with your life. Not in Judaism. We have to recognize something even in that situation. And that is, everything is still working according to the functionality that was assigned to it. And hence we have got a blessing for going to the toilet and coming back. When you come back from the toilet, and remember, I don't know if I've mentioned this in the past, but as I said, you cannot utter the name of God when you are in the place where there's a bad smell or it's filthy or all that. So after you went to the toilet and you come back, you need to make sure that you are at least 2 meters away from the toilet. And where you are, there's no bad smell. Then after you find yourself in that good situation, then you have to pay attention and bless God that everything in your body still functions. And hence there's a blessing in Judaism for that particular function, or being able to go to the toilet and come back. Blessed are you, Adonai, God, King of verse, who formed men in wisdom, created within him many verses and passages. It is obvious and known before the throne of your glory that even one of them ought to be open, or one of them to be closed, would be impossible to survive or stand before you. Blessed Adonai, who heal all flesh and performs wonders. Powerful blessing that is recited after visiting the restaurant. It doesn't matter how many times a day you go, whenever you come back, you have to make sure you have washed your hands. You are at least 2 meters away from that place. There's no bad smell. The place is proper for you to be able to say a blessing. And as you say a blessing, you have to concentrate and understand that you cannot say the word of God, the name of God, while you are not concentrating, because you are taking the name of God in vain. So now I'm taking you through, as we wake up in the morning, we recognize God. We go to the restroom, we recognize God, but that everything is still functioning properly in our body. You sit down to eat. As you sit down to eat, we've got different blessings that we recite, that we're supposed to recite, based on what you are about to eat. Look, when you talk about food, bread becomes the most important part of your food. If in what we're about to eat there's bread, there is a certain blessing that we recite for the bread, and that blessing covers everything else in your plate. I know it's something that is not in other religion it's like taboo. You don't understand this. In other religion you just say a prayer and that's it. In Judaism you have to recognize what is in front of you and get to understand that a blessing for fruit cannot be the same with a blessing for vegetables. A blessing for juice cannot be the same as a blessing for a wine. So you need to be cognizant of this fact that you cannot just have one thing for everything. You need to sit there and recognize what's in front of you and say a blessing for that particular thing. There are times when in your plate you've got several kinds of food and you'll have to say a blessing for each, except if there's bread in your food. If you say a blessing for the bread, it covers for everything. The same thing for drinks. If you've got wine, grape wine in your drinks, saying a blessing to grape juice or wine, automatically it covers every other thing. I hope it makes sense. So now, let's go back. What is the blessing when you're about to eat bread? Then we have it in Hebrew, we have it in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. In English, blessed are you now, God King universe, who brought forth the bread from the ground. That's a blessing for the fruits, for the bread. And what if you're about to eat vegetables? Then the first part is always the same. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King universe. And then we say, who created the fruit of the ground, meaning vegetables. If you're going to eat fruits, who created the fruit of the tree? Wine or grapes or grape juice created the fruit of the vine, of the vine, yes. And what if, let's say, you eat this any other cooked food made from grain, flour, or rice? Then you say, who created various kinds of sustenance? And if you're about to eat, let's say, meat, you will also say various kinds of sustenance. Okay. If you're about to eat meat, then you will say, whose word all things came into being, right? That will include also cheese, eggs, mushroom, or fully processed food, right? So I will put also a link so you can be able to go and study on your own all these kinds of blessings that are quite important for us to understand, that we get to recognize the good that is before us, that we eat not because we are able to bring anything. We eat because God is the provider. In Psalms 145 it says, he opens his hand and satisfies the desires of every living thing. So that is quite important, that we have got a blessing before we eat, we have got a blessing after we have eaten. The blessing that comes after we have eaten, go and look at Deuteronomy chapter, should be chapter 8 verse 10 or 10 verse 8, where you will see that it's a command from the Most High that we need to bless him after we've eaten. So we've got these blessings that we have just talked about now. There's a blessing for bread, there's blessing for wine, there's blessing for fruits, there's blessing for vegetables, there's blessing for any other things like meat, eggs, We've got blessings for rice, for other things. We all have these blessings. And these things, they teach us that we need to intentionally recognizing the good that is before us. You go to the toilet, you come back, you recognize the good. You wake up in the morning, you recognize that it was not given, but it was a blessing and it was a gift from God for you to be able to wake up in the morning. So I will take time so we can also go deeper and deeper into this topic, but it's a very important blessing that recognizing the good is very important, and not think that you have what you have because of your hard work. You are healthy because you go to gym. No. Everything still works in your body because you happen to be the healthiest person because of your efforts. No. It is good to make your effort, but at the end of the day, it is God who decides. And we thank God for everything that happens, even for those things that may seem not to be good. I thank you.